All right, we are live. Andy Hoang, welcome to the future of fitness, my friend.
Thanks, Eric. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's been a long time overdue, right?
Yep.
You and I have kind of run the same circles. I got to meet you last year at URSA, sample some of your technology, and through our mutual
Eric, you
colleague
there?
Shane Farmer at Dark Horse. I have a big soft spot in my heart for the world of rowing and indoor rowing. So excited to learn more on what you're up to. Andy, maybe you could just start giving us a little bit of your background, how you got interested in rowing, how you got to be the CEO and founder of Aviron, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah. So I'll give you like part of the origin story of Aviron, but I'm
Please.
not a rower. I'm only like 5'7.5". I like to say I'm 5'8", like to give me a little extra half inch, but I'm definitely not a rower. Rowers are all super lanky, tall, strong people. But I love rowing because it's such an efficient workout, but it's really, really tough. And cardio just in general is really tough. And I think rowing is probably the toughest form of cardio since it's just so intense, full body workout. So I wanted to make it more enjoyable by combining what one of my passions, which is gaming, growing up playing a ton of games, and combining it with fitness. So rowing and video games is kind of the how or why the business kind of started.
Yeah, interesting. So rowing is, I think, one of the most challenging cardio. Like back in my CrossFit days, I always joke like you only get a certain amount of 2K time trials before you eventually just keel over and die. Like I think you get like 30 of them in your life because they're so brutal. Like I don't think there's anything. We used to do this test, and I don't want to get us too off track. I want to talk about your technology, but we used to do when I was training with OPT and OPEX, like we do these athlete camps, and we had this thing called the 30-30 test where it was only 4 minutes long, but it was absolutely devastating. Like 30 seconds all out effort, 30 seconds rest, but you couldn't unstrap in the row. You had to sit there, and then you do that, 4 rounds. And everyone in the room would know if you're like trying to, you know, eke out a little bit, like,
Yeah.
not put in full effort. But man, I was just used to see people crawling out into the parking lot and doing what they had to do to get out. So rowing is a unique mechanism for
Yep.
causing a lot of discomfort. That's what I'm trying to say. So
Yeah. And this is a
kudos to you.
fact, actually. I watched like a small little documentary you can probably find on YouTube, but the pain tolerance of a rowing athlete, they tested it, is higher than the pain tolerance of any other athlete, like in any sport, which is interesting.
Well, the ability to, like, if you look at a race, and we can don't get too much into it, but like if you look at, like, let's say it's a 2K race with a team, the ability to have to go from aerobic to lactate to like these going in and out of these energy systems in so frequently under a short period of time, like it's one of the most, I don't think people can really conceptualize until you actually try it, right, at that level of effort. But you also have a certain amount of ability to create power and endurance in the sport to actually get to that level of pain.
Yep.
But it is remarkable.
Yeah.
um so, okay, so you gaming and rowing, right? So maybe
Yeah.
start off from there. Like, what was the inception of these two things? Did you have an aha moment where you're like, okay, there's a problem I can solve here? Yeah, walk us through that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like a lot of different journeys in my life that kind of got me there. Growing up, I had ADHD. I guess I still have ADHD. And the only thing that I could really focus on was like video games. I could play games for like hours and hours and hours. I was playing. I remember I used to play video games until like the sun would rise, and that's when I was like, oh shit, I gotta get to bed.
Oh no.
So I used to play a ton of video games, and I also used to be pretty active. I competed in like martial arts for over 20 years. Like traveled a lot, did a lot of different types of martial arts. So I was super competitive, love to win. And then I read about Peloton in a Bloomberg article, and they were like a small company back then. They're like $50 million. I bought the bike, and I was like, great. Like I struggle with cardio. Like this is how I can get my cardio in, especially like at home. But the like experience didn't resonate with me, being someone who's like competitive, and that's what like really sparked the idea. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a similar type of business, but like with an experience that resonates with me. And so I'm competitive and I like games, and that's kind of how it started. And it was way harder than I thought it was going to be. When I reflect back, I was naive. I was like, okay, it can't be that hard to like put video games on a rowing machine. But yeah, it's a very complex, complicated business.
I mean, if you can explain it in layman's terms, like what makes it so complicated and complex?
Yeah, a lot of things. So, we're fortunate that we got investors to kind of invest in the business, but most investors don't like investing in this type of business because there's so many things that can go wrong. because you're dealing with hardware, and hardware is challenging. And I can explain like the simple explanation. But if you make a mistake on like, there's like a bug with software, like you can fix it overnight and like release an update. With hardware, like you can't fix mistakes. And if you do have to fix mistakes, it's going to take a long time because maybe you have to like change a design on a PCB board. You have to like ship stuff. And so that makes hardware really, really challenging. But our hardware is even more challenging because it's a 7-foot long machine that weighs 130 pounds. That makes it really, really tough. And on top of that, we're not just a hardware company, but we also have a software component. And so we are really, truly a software company, but also a hardware company. And the product that we're selling is like huge. And that's what makes it very, very challenging.
Yeah. Interesting. And when did you start the company?
I really did start the company in 2016 as a part-time kind of on the weekends and evenings. And then we launched the product really in 2018. So like the interesting story about us as well is we were probably the first connected rower, but we bootstrapped the business. So, not many people heard about us in 2018. It really wasn't until like 2021 when we like raised capital is really when the business started taking off. But the first 5 years were like really, really slow.
So you started in 2016. Maybe walk us through what are the years 2016 and 2018? Is that like, the storied like development in your basement type thing? Like how was that? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It was finding a supplier that would actually make the rower for us. We hired our first 2 engineers in 2016 and started building the product. We actually built the product before we like building the software before we had the physical product. And then it wasn't until the end of 2018, like December, when we started shipping the first few units out there. So yeah, it took over 2 years, given it was a really, really small team. I think the team was like 4 people for the first between 2016 to the end of 2018 to get the product to market.
And what was the first iteration? Like, how is it different than what you have now?
Good question. And I'm happy you asked that. So when I first started building the product, like we were like, gaming is the core. Like we want it to be like video games. Like that's what we wanted. But the truth is the product has evolved. Like we're not a video game company. What's important is that our rowing machine uses video game psychology and design to make that experience fun. So that's what makes people addicted to the experience. So like every minute that you row, you earn like in-game currency, you use that currency to unlock workouts, backgrounds, avatars. But we're not a gaming company because we have streaming. We do have coach classes, like with training tools on our program, our system. We have virtual rowing. Because if you're only making video games, the truth is not everybody resonates with video games. That's the first thing, especially people who can afford our product. And video games, people don't understand video games and fitness equipment together. There's like, it's like a huge learning curve, right? So like, how do I play a video game on a machine? I'm not going to spend the money to like do this. So that's where the products changed. So we first were just purely video games, and we just weren't doing that well until we started pivoting. And now we're like a fitness entertainment company that uses game psychology as its core.
Fitness entertainment company. And how long did it take you? Like what you said was so simple and so clear, right? Like I understand it almost immediately, but sometimes when you get messaging that clear, it takes a long time to develop it. So when did you kind of realize that that's actually the business you're in?
Yesterday. Like it's still evolving. You know why? Because like rowing is niche. It's hard selling people a $2,000 rower. That's a fact. Like because rowers have been out for a long time. Everybody knows rowing, but like you're asking people to spend twice as much for a rower and pay for a subscription. So that's a challenge in itself. And then you're telling people to play video games on fitness equipment, which is like another kind of like challenge that you have to overcome. So like we're still trying to craft that message because it's so much education to get people to buy our product. But once they get on the product, they understand it, right? But that's the unfortunate thing is like we have to try to sell this and communicate it to people within like 10 seconds over like an ad. You can't, like you have to really try the product for you to really experience and understand what we're building, because there's nothing else like it right now in the market.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, I'm going to circle back to fitness entertainment as a category in a little bit, but can I continue on with like the iterations? So what you had, initially was this, the minimum viable product, right, that you had to kind of test out. And then, kind of walk me through from 2018 to 2024, where we are now.
Yeah, so 2018, like I said, I'm being serious when I said we had 4 people. We had 2 developers, we had 1 graphics person that would make the animations and whatnot, and then we had myself who like dealt with sales, everything else, and we sold purely to B2B. Today we're at over 75 people, and
Wow.
so the company's changed, a ton, and the product's gone through tons and tons of revisions. When we first launched, we had one game where you're being chased by zombies, and I think one race. Like that was it. You could race people, on other machines. That was the big thing, is like being able to connect other machines and race each other. Today we have well over 1,000 different workout options. So it's either like you can do hundreds of classes, you can do virtual rowing, different scenic places around the world. We have tons of games, probably like 30 games. Each game has like unlocked levels. Like there's so much depth to it that it's like really hard to like go in and explain. But there's like key elements that leaderboards. Like there's just so many features that we've added over the years that really improve the product.
And how has the physical hardware changed? I mean, have you guys any fundamental shifts to that as you go on? I mean, when you mentioned, 7 feet, 130 pounds, like that's a serious piece of equipment, right? Like,
Yeah,
especially for home use. Like, how has the hardware actually
yeah,
shifted
yeah.
over time?
And I love it that you're asking that because it helps me sell the product for sure. You're asking all the key questions. So when we first had our first rower that came out, it was really just like a white label of like another brand rower. And I did think it was a good rower, but it wasn't like the best rower out there for sure. And now we have like our flagship model, which is the Strong Series model. So rowing's been around for a super long time, but it really hasn't been an industry that's evolved. Like if you look at treadmills, even treadmills haven't evolved that much, but at least they have like screens and they have like slat plates now, and there's like a lot of evolution to it. Rowing is dominated by Concept 2, great rowing machine, industry standard. Obviously, you own CrossFit gyms. I've rowed on the Concept 2, but do I think it's the best rower out there for everyone? Probably not, especially because it's just hasn't evolved in such a long time. So our first product was a good rower, but after running the company for a couple of years, we were like, we got to build a better rower for our customers, and our customers are not rowers. That's like the key. Like we're not trying to take business away from Concept 2, because people who row on the Concept 2, they're cult like. They love that product. Like if you go through our ads on like Facebook and you read through the comments, like 90% of the comments are, buy Concept 2, this is a piece of shit kind of thing, because they're so hardcore Concept 2, and
That's so
I love
concept
it.
too. Yeah.
Yes, but we want to build a product for non-rowers is really how I describe it. And like, what makes our rower a rower for non-rowers? Some really simple examples. The Concept 2, your foot placement is pretty close together, and it's close together because that's how you generate more power. Like you want to have longer range of motion, and you don't want your feet too wide. But if you're 350 pounds and you have a gut and you haven't worked out before, like the Concept 2 is not a fun machine. Like it's like you feel uncomfortable on there. So like we did things like we designed a foot plate that allows you to adjust the distance between your feet. The Concept 2 on the typical rower is like 10 inches off the ground. We made it to our seats 20 inches off the ground. So it's all these like small things that we designed to make rowing more accessible for regular people. So yeah, we changed the rower top to bottom with tons of features, in addition to creating an experience with like our gaming psychology that's much different than what's out there.
Yeah, interesting. It's so funny about C2 too. I mean, they've been around for a long time, and I know a lot of the people at Concept 2, and they just really don't have much interest in changing what they do because it's such a staple of the community, right? I mean, it's CrossFit was obviously a huge push for them, and then just the rowing community uses it.
Yeah.
As everyone just calls it the erg, right? It's just the
Yep.
erg. That's what you train on. So I want to get in. Let's talk about the software, and maybe we could do it this way. Walk me through like what the user experience is for someone who just got one, right? Unboxed it, got it home, really excited to start using it. Like what is the user experience now?
Yeah, so that's also a good question. So as a small company, and I'll go in between like business and like give you like both
Sure.
answers, like the experience. As a small business, we were like, we got to make this rower super easy to assemble, because we can't afford, like we're not a big enough business to like hire and manage white glove service and have people like assemble it. So we made this rower a little bit lighter than other connected rowers. So it has to weigh less than 150 pounds for UPS to be able to ship it to your door, or FedEx. So that was like the first thing. So it is a lighter rower. It is also a little shorter. That's why it's only 7 feet long for those reasons. And you can assemble it with the tools that we provided the box in 30 minutes. That was important to us. So as a user, the experience of putting together isn't challenging, and it has to be unchallenging, because at that time we were like, we can't build this product and make it complex, even though, that was one of like the things that we had to overcome. So you get the rower built together, you turn on the screen. The concept of what we're building as fitness entertainment is that the way you can imagine our software is kind of like a Nintendo system, where every day when you want to play on your Nintendo, you may want to play Mario Kart one day, you may want to play Tetris another day. You should be able to just take a cartridge, just put it in the machine and play it. And that's how Aviron is built in our ecosystem, where you can go in and just pick any type of experience depending on how you're feeling that day. Do I want to do an interval race? Do I want to do like a long form kind of class? So there's a ton of variety across multiple categories, and there's workouts that span from 5 minutes all the way up to an hour and a half, 2 hour workouts. So a lot to choose from. It is kind of complex, and there is a little bit of a learning curve compared to other experiences, because it's something very new, like it's gaming. So I won't lie to say that it's like as simple as just jumping on and selecting a class. Everybody understands that there is like a slight learning curve. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, for sure. And is it, you mentioned, what was it, like 1,000 gaming options now on the platform, something like that?
Yeah.
Are you guys writing or programming all of those games, or is this like an open ecosystem where people can build games specifically for your hardware?
Yeah, people can't build games yet. Hopefully that's something we can do one day. But what's interesting is, so we use an engine called Unity. It's a really well-known gaming engine. And so 100% of our developers are game developers. Like, you can't work for us because if you're not a game developer, because you wouldn't know how to use like the gaming engine, essentially. So all our employees are all gamers, and hopefully one day, because we are using that engine, there's a lot of other people that understand how to use the engine. It's the biggest engine in the world, that we would be able to have other people kind of build on our platform, but not yet.
Got it. And when you look at the at-home rowing market, we'll just call it that, right? Or maybe just not on water rowing. I'm just making stuff up now, but that whole category, right? You have C2, you have Aviron, you have Hydro. I guess this is a two-part question, is like, how do you guys fit into that market? Like, where are you unique amongst them? I know you've already pinpointed a couple of things, but love to hear it consolidated. And then also, like, how is that market doing right now in general, post-pandemic?
Yeah. See if I can answer those questions and kind of link them together. So the overall market for connected fitness is getting crushed right now, right? It's post-pandemic, and I wouldn't say it's getting crushed in the typical way, because we're not doing bad. We're actually doing pretty good. People are getting crushed because the expectations, during the peak of COVID, people were raising a ton of capital. They were acquiring customers for like not a lot. We call that acquisition cost, so customer acquisition cost. Today, customer acquisition cost is like, frankly, at least 200 to 300% more than it was in like the peak of COVID. So for every, let's say it costs you $100 to acquire a customer, now it's costing you $300. So that's why most of the connected fitness industry is not doing well, because they didn't model their business based on having this high of acquisition costs. And that's why you see everyone raising their prices. And obviously, because they're raising their prices, it's because they're not acquiring enough customers. And that's what's causing all this pain, and why you probably see a few businesses probably will go under. But I have faith in the industry. And I have faith in the industry that it is a real industry. It's just had a lot of demand that was pulled forward. It is an industry that's growing. And if you are a business that, we're fortunate that before pandemic, we weren't a venture-backed business that expected acquisition costs to be, 300% more. We were scraping by, being super, grungy and hustling. So overall, the industry is not doing as well because there's less customers and it's harder to acquire them because a lot of demand was pulled forward. That means a lot of our competitors are probably going to go under because they can't afford to acquire customers for that cheap. And then the companies that are able to maintain good margins and have a solid foundation on their business will probably do well. That's from an industry standpoint. So with that said, we're probably in the top 2 to 3 of the connected fitness in terms of rowing. You mentioned one of them. I'll mention it again. Hydro is probably, the biggest player out there, and then probably followed by, I would say, us. So the space is getting a little bit smaller, and we were really small back then. We're fortunate enough that we're able to power through everything and become one of the top 2 now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, people have talked about Peloton ad nauseum at this point, right? And like everyone has an opinion. Everyone, it's really easy for people to armchair quarterback that one, right? But one of the things I've read and heard numerous times, like they paid zero marketing during the pandemic. Like they didn't have to worry about marketing spend at all. And, when CAC increased, obviously that hurt a lot of people. So it is, I mean, it's got to be, obviously you're still in the business. So you see this as short-term headwinds, right? What do you think for the long-term projection of connected home fitness?
I think it's going to be tough. It's never going to be like it was at the pandemic level. So people that are expecting it to return to those levels, it's not going to happen. And so you need to make sure that I think it is going to get better because interest rates are going to, go down. I'll share this, but close to like 40-50% of most connected fitness people are like financing it through a firm or through Klarna. And then, so when interest rates are, whatever percent they are now, which is like 20x what they were at the peak of the pandemic, it's really expensive to finance connected fitness. And a large portion of our customers are financing. So I think it's going to get better, maybe Q3 when those interest rates drop, but it'll never be at those pandemic levels. So as long as you have built a business where your margins are strong, your unit economics make sense, and you're not churning your customers, they're not canceling the membership because you have a good product, I think you'll have a great business because the industry is still growing.
Yeah. Good. I like, I like connected fitness as a category quite a bit. I have a tonal at home. I've talked about numerous times. I use it all the time, especially in the winter. I mean, right now it's, 4 degrees and it's dumping snow. Like the thought of going to the gym just isn't that attractive at this point. So it's been really great. I think a lot of people are kind of getting to that new normal of like people who are deep fitness consumers will have both, right? They'll have the gym membership, they'll have the at-home setup. And that's kind of what the pandemic did, kind of push that on the market rather quickly. 2021, that's when you raised some capital, right? That must have been, walk me through that year. That was probably very pivotal in what we're doing. Like, what was that experience like? How'd it go? And, how'd that change the trajectory of Aviron?
Yeah, actually, I'll go back 1 year before that. So we've always been trying to raise capital. Everyone tries to raise capital. That's like the thing to do. Capital helps you grow faster. And, because in the beginning when we launched, we weren't a B2C business. We were a B2B business because that's what we could afford to do. Like we had no marketing, we had nothing. So I was literally going out to vertical markets that would sell to like condominiums, apartments, country clubs, whatever it was. And as soon as COVID hit, that market just got crushed. And it's funny because every investor I ever talked to prior to raising that first check was like, this is not going to work. It's just not even because like COVID had hit at that time. It's just raising capital is really tough for any business. And so we pitched, I don't know. I remember I put my rower inside, like I rented a car after a trade show at Ursha, like way back when. And then I drove it to San Francisco and like knocked on doors to try to show people the product, which was really, really challenging. And then COVID hit and we pretty much almost went bankrupt because our main market was like the B2B side, hotels, everything was closed. So that's when we pivoted. We're like, okay, we have to pivot. And we pivoted to B2C. I have no experience in B2C. I had no idea what CAC was at the time. I had no idea any direct-to-consumer terms. And we pivoted. And that's when we started getting a bit of traction, which was great. We started getting a little bit of sales. I remember at the start of 2020, or like midway through 2020, we started doing like 30K a month, 40K a month. And then we got into a program called Y Combinator. You might have heard of them. They're like an accelerator out of San Francisco. Got into YC. And it's funny because all those investors, or a lot of them, that said no 3 weeks, 4 weeks prior, they were calling me and saying, "Hey, we'd love to invest in your business." So it's like the raising capital is super hard. You could have an amazing business. It's not just having an amazing business. Like, you need to be validated by the market or by like some other party. And the fact that we got into Y Combinator, it was like quite prestigious. That was our ticket into raising capital. And it made me go like, VCs are tough. But you could have a great business, but it doesn't mean you're going to raise capital. And you could have you could just have an idea and you be able to raise capital because you know the right people.
Yeah. Where are you located? Where is the actual headquarters?
Toronto. We're
Toronto. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I was going to say, if like, it sounds like a company, it was like, if you were based in the Silicon Valley, you probably would have raised capital much faster just because of that.
Exactly.
The incestuous nature of the Valley. Yeah. But otherwise it can be, from everyone I've talked to, I've never raised significant capital, but it's just not,
it's hard.
It's not an easy job.
It's hard.
I don't envy. Yeah.
It's hard. And sorry, I'll say one more thing. It's hard until you raise your first check. Because once you raise your first check from some type of an institutional investor, typically they have a network, and now you have a reputation. Because if one person invests, then everyone's like, okay, why'd they invest? I want to know about this company. But getting that first check is like literally the hardest thing. But once you get that first one done, it's like exponentially easier.
Yeah. Can you share, I mean, how successful were you in the fundraising in 2021 and beyond?
Yeah, I can't tell you the valuation because that's confidential, but I'll tell you how much we raised. So I started the business with all my own capital, probably sunk in $500,000 from friends and family and myself. And then in our seed round, which is right when we got out of Y Combinator, we raised $4.5 million. And then later in that year, or like early in the next year, we raised an additional $18.5 million. So nice. Total of like $24 million.
Awesome. And now in 2024, like, how are you guys doing? Healthy company? Like, give us some insights onto, obviously you're out here on the podcast network looking to spread the word. So you got something to talk about.
Yeah. We're doing good. And I really think it's because we didn't have capital for the first 5 years of the business. So between 2016 and 2021, we were grinding it like every other regular business. And I think that's why we're successful now, is because even though the times are tough, they weren't as tough as they were when we didn't have any capital. And for those companies that started out in the pandemic and raised capital in the pandemic, they didn't really experience those tough times. So yeah, paying employees and over hiring and acquiring customers at a really cheap price, like that's what they're used to. So that's why we're doing good these days.
Awesome. Right on. One of the big things I want to talk about, because you brought it up, and it's something that I haven't really dove into on this podcast, but maybe no one's put it the way you have, is fitness entertainment as a category. I don't know. Do you have like couple things? Like, do you have a loose definition of what exactly that means? And then who else out there is kind of capitalizing on this category of fitness entertainment? Yeah,
no one is capitalizing, and that's kind of our angle. And you're asking a good question, because we think we're pioneering it. So there's no real definition. If you Google what fitness entertainment is, you're not going to find it. But what we know that we're not the typical class-based experience, instructor-led experience. We are using entertainment in the form of streaming, in the form of games, in the form of what virtual destination coaches, whatever it is. That's how we describe fitness entertainment, is that we're not classes. We're not just a one type of experience. We're a variety. I think that's the key. And why customers buy us is, I think entertainment kind of is synonymous with variety. I think that kind of answers. If I had more time, I'd probably give you a better answer, but that's what comes to mind.
Yeah. Well, I think too, like when I look at like VR, AR, MR, right? Like, I mean, that's got to be a little bit of fitness entertainment for some of the applications. I mean, do you get any insights or inspiration from that world, or potentially any plans to merge into those areas?
Yeah, I mean, that's what, if you think about what we like, if you get on our rower and then you actually go through like a workout, you feel like you're going to the movies, you feel like you're going out and playing pool with friends, because it is that type of experience. And I'll give you like an example. You can go on our platform at any time. You go to a room that we have called our group workout lobby. And that is where you can work out with other people in real time, 24/7. So I could jump into a workout right now. Let's say one of our favorite games right now is called Rose to Riches. It's a like pirate game where you're shooting other pirate ships. You can do it with up to 3 people in real time. And there could be me just in there by myself, and suddenly someone will join me, and another person will join me, and someone will leave. And that's what makes it like entertainment. It's like you're going out and you're doing something with your friends. You're just like coming in, going out. And I think that's why we borrowed that experience from like going to the movies or like playing pool or going bowling with friends and brought it to like the fitness world.
Yeah, interesting. So is there like, and I guess I probably should at some point use the technology. That's
I'll
probably the
send
best
you
way
a
to
roar.
experience.
I'll send you
Oh
a
yeah.
roar.
Oh, all right. Like what is it like when you're sitting on it? Are you like, you have headphones on? Like what they walk me through the experience a little bit more. Like how immersive is it, I guess?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and that's why it's so hard to like explain, like just like talking to you about it. But what people think Aviron is, it's just like the video game. Like that's what they think it is. Like you got video games on there, but video games is like it's such a small part of the experience. It's like everything that happens before the workout and after the workout, and that's what makes it like this fully like this great experience. And there's just so much variety. But I'm gonna pick one game as an example. So one game we have is called Row Breaker. It's like playing old school brick breaker. You're like breaking bricks and stuff. So when you get onto that platform and you go to first thing before you even get to that platform, before you get into that workout, you can go to things like global leaderboards. We have monthly challenges. There's like all these other little like nuggets of things you can do in the ecosystem. And that's so like, you can level up from like an elite level athlete to an Olympian. You can unlock achievements. I'm like 600 place on leaderboards. You have leaderboards for your friends, whatever. But let's say I go into that row breaker experience. I get into the game. I play the game. But not only do I play the game, but like the more I play the game and the better I play the game, I get to unlock little milestones in that game as well. So it's like not just the game itself, but it's like I'll get a new type of background or a new type of weapon or something because I play it for longer and I level up in that experience. And then when you finish, there's like high scoreboards. It's all multiplayer, and we don't give you access to like every single row breaker level. You have to like unlock them by like beating the different bosses or playing for a certain period of time. And that's like that full experience. So people always focus into like they look at the like YouTube videos and they're like, oh, they have a game. It's like the game's not what makes it addictive. It's like everything that you did before and after that makes you want to come back for more. It's like I want to unlock that next skin, but I know I have to beat this level and blah blah blah.
Yeah. Interesting. So I want to ask you a question. I know you're not an expert, but I feel like this is something you know a lot about. Web3. 2, 3 years ago, everybody in our industry was talking about Web3. Now it's barely a whisper. Like, what? I mean, I know there's some parallels. You're not exactly Web3, but there's definitely some parallels here. Like, what happened to Web3? Is it still alive? Like, are you keeping an eye on the evolution of it? Like, is it like cryptocurrency where it kind of went away for a while and then it comes back periodically? Like, how do you see that world emerging within health and wellness?
I can't really talk to it about like other companies, but I can speak to it on how we've thought about it. And to be honest, like at the time, I was like thinking about it because I was like, this is the hot term that we need to like hop on because that's going to allow us to raise our next round of capital. It's kind of like AI right now because we're like, let's use some AI inside our like platform so that we can stay relevant. And then we talk to investors, they'll be like, oh, they got AI, we'll invest in them. So we were thinking about it in the term of like, honestly, I don't think it's useful, in my opinion, in the connected fitness space. But there are use cases where we could try to make it useful. And in our case, we have our own in-game currency where you can buy backgrounds and new workouts based on how many minutes that you row. And we were like, okay, this blockchain technology, we're gonna make our currency based on blockchain, and then you can earn your own currency and then like give it to someone else or like use that currency and buy swag from our website. But it's so complex and so challenging in that it takes a long time to really understand and build out to integrate to your platform. There's not a lot of people that understand it. So if you want to hire a developer that builds this technology, it's going to cost you a ton of money. And so we decided not to pursue this And thankfully we didn't, because it's like kind of a fad. Like I think it'll come back. I think there's a place for it, but it's super early, and like there's no need, at least in my opinion, in the connected fitness industry, to like incorporate this for, you know, reasons that aren't that important.
Yeah. 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 It's just interesting. I mean, just talking to you made me think about it. Like, I haven't talked about Web3 on this podcast in well over a year. And for a while, it was like, I felt like every
Yeah.
episode we were talking about Web3 tokenization, right?
Yep.
All of that. So it's just, yeah, it's funny how things change. And right now, you're right. Like, AI is everything. If you don't have AI somewhere, like in your LinkedIn profile and you're a tech founder, like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
why are we even, why are you even
Yep.
playing the game?
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. And AI is a little different. I think that does have like some
Oh, yeah.
wheels. Like I think that's going to have an impact, especially in like the health and fitness space. But Web3, not so much.
Yeah, not so much. Can you give us some insights, Andy, to like, what does the future of Aviron look like? We've kind of talked about the past and the present, but you know, from, I'm sure you can't share everything, but what do you see the future of your company looking like?
Yeah, and I kind of hinted to it super early on, but I told you that we started building the software before we even found our rowing machine. So we're trying to build ourselves as a fitness entertainment platform. If you look at our games, they're not games that are rowing games. Like you can, run away from zombies, like I mentioned, or you can stream. Like they're not rowing. We're agnostic to all types of hardware, and we mentioned earlier before we jumped on here is that you can actually experience Aviron on our flagship rower, but you can also experience Aviron on a Concept 2 rower. So we are definitely going to other rowing machines. But what a lot of people don't know is if you download that Aviron app and you scroll to the right, there's actually the Concept 2 bike. So you can actually get on Concept 2 bike erg with our software today and actually experience our games. So we want to be a fitness entertainment leader, not just in the modality of rowing. I think rowing was the best place to start for us because it's such a challenging workout experience. There wasn't too much competition at the time, but I think for the future of this business, it's expanding beyond rowing and bringing this very unique way of working out to like more people through more modalities.
And do you envision that happening through more of the software, or are you looking at like hardware product, line extensions as well, into, things other than rowing specifically?
Yeah, and that's a good question. And the honest answer is, so today we have our premium flagship Strong Series rower with a 22-inch screen. We just launched a smaller, not smaller, the same rower, but it uses an iPad. And then we have our third option is hardware agnostic on the Concept 2. This is a new year. We just launched most of these products in the last 3 months, or except for the first one. And it's really about what I mentioned earlier is what does CAC look like? What is LTV to CAC? Like, how much money am I going to make off of one customer and how much does it cost to acquire that customer? And I can't tell you that it's going to be software or it's going to be our flagship or it's going to be that hybrid model, but I can tell you that in 6 months, we will know exactly where the business will be because we'll be able to test and find out what the best LTV to CAC ratio is. And I guarantee that's what we'll lean into, for the next while.
Yeah. Sounds like a sound way to make decisions and lead, Andy.
Yep.
That's crazy. What about your journey? Like I had Ali Oradi on this podcast twice from Tonal and, very honest, insightful. And I asked him like, what's this been like for you? And I think he, paraphrasing from memory, but he kind of equated to like, it's like trying to jump into a Formula One car and learning to drive it as you go. Like everything's happening so fast, the bigger and badder you get, like the more levers and buttons and lights and things are flashing at you. So, how are you handling this entrepreneurial journey, starting in 2016, like in the garage, and as all these great stories begin, all the way, over the last 8 years, how have you handled it?
Yeah. Ali started in the garage. We started in the basement. It's a little bit different.
Okay.
We're in the basement and he's a great guy. He's super sharp. I really like him. I think if I reflect back, like I mentioned, it was really challenging, setting up a hardware company. A lot of times I never really wanted to give up other than like 1 or 2 times, but those times I hit, I was like, shit, man, like I can't fix this problem. Like our company's going to go under. But I think one of the key things of being a founder is that you're quite naive. You have a lot of confidence. And so like when I look forward, I'm very optimistic. I see a lot of positive things that are going to happen for the business. I think we're going to grow. We're going to be successful. but I know it's going to be, back of my head, I think it's going to be really, really challenging. So as a founder, the journey is like, I'm excited. I'm pumped. I think there's a lot that's going to happen for the industry. I think, I'm just super optimistic, but that's because being a founder, you have to be naive and think that it's going to be easier, because if you don't, you're going to quit and you're going to fail.
Yeah. It reminds me of, like, I had this mentor for a while who I would always look at a project and be like, oh, it's going to be hard. Man, this is going to be tough. I'm in it. This is going to be a grind. And he would just be like, well, Eric, what if it was easy? I was like, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, what if this thing you want to do was easy? I'm like, no, it's never going to be easy. But then you like start thinking, like, so if you let those kind of thoughts creep in your head, like, well, what if it was easy? What if I'm just making up this whole thing in my head, And I feel like you're kind of at a point with your business, from the limited amount I've learned today, is like, moving forward, things may get I'm not going to say easier, but the problems may become more familiar, right, as you go, or more, and you can anticipate them a little better. I mean, is that kind of the sense that you got looking forward for your company?
Yeah, it's funny because when I think back, I go, it was way easier back then, right? Like, I used to be writing the emails myself for newsletters and all this stuff, or acquiring customers. You're just a smaller business. Like, okay, I'm trying to hit 10 sales a day. I'm trying to hit like 15 sales a day. So you reflect back, you're like, it definitely gets harder. And when I'm sitting now, when I'm reflecting back, like it's got harder every single year. And I got to manage more people, and then you have more people. That means more people are resigning, quitting, you're getting fired, whatever it is. Like, it just gets harder. But if you ask me right now what I think next year's going to be like, I'm going to tell you it looks easier. And you're exactly right. Like, I think you keep thinking next year's going to be easier, right? You don't go to a board meeting like telling your board, oh, it's going to be really rough. Like, you really believe that things are going to be better, and you have to convince them that things are going to be like great. But when you reflect back, you're like, shit, it's getting harder and harder and harder.
Yeah. Great honesty, man. I really appreciate it. I want to zoom out too. So the fitness, we'll just say fitness and wellness industry has been very dynamic, right? The last 4 years, I think the most out of my 16-year career. When you look at not necessarily connected fitness or anything like that, or fitness entertainment, the categories we've identified and talked about today, but what gets you most excited about fitness and wellness technology right now? Like, you look at the greater landscape, and when we talked about AI, everyone talks about the wearables and, precision medicine and all that stuff. But is there anything that you're pretty excited about, and things that you want to follow?
I'll give you a different answer. To answer that specific question, not really, because this industry is at a position where everybody's contracting, everybody's trying to stay alive. So I don't, like, getting noticed in PR is difficult these days, because like Men's Health and all these magazines, like, they don't care about connected fitness anymore. So like, the frank answer is that it's hard to find optimism when like the industry is contracting a little bit and no one wants to like hear what you have to say. But what does motivate me, and what's interesting, is when I started the business, I built the product for myself. I literally built it for myself. I think you should build a business because you have a passion for something, or has a profound impact on your life. Like, someone's sick, has cancer, you want to like cure cancer. So for me, it had an impact on my life, and I have a passion for like fitness and like gaming. So I built the product for myself. But what I came to realize the last few years, we have an amazing Facebook group, for example, with like 10,000 members, and you go in that group, and, and people are like, I lost 90 pounds and I'm like off medication for the first time. And it literally makes you feel so good. I literally have customers, because I'm the face of the company, and they actually use my face to like kind of convince people to like buy our products. Like, I'm the face of the company. And I literally have people sending me emails thanking me for like building this product. And that's not why I like built the company in the beginning. Like, I wanted to build a company and I wanted to build a product for myself, but like seeing the impact that we're having on people. And that's one of the ways that I motivate people in our company, is like, we're not just building a SaaS tool that's helping some business shave off 5% of their cost, right? We're building something that is literally changing the lives of thousands of people. And that is like the best feeling like ever. And that's like what motivates every single person in this company to keep going, is like, we have such a positive impact on the world.
Yeah. I know that feeling. It's a really good feeling.
Yeah, you own a
That's
gym,
awesome,
like,
man.
you kind of get the same feeling.
Yeah, it's the best. I mean, it you can go through, and that's something so unique to our industry. It's like, you can go through the worst days, weeks, months, but then you kind of get that one little, I used to keep I still do what I call a feel good file. And it was like,
Yep.
used to just be a folder, right, with cards and thank yous in it.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like an email folder, but it's evolved over time. But it was always like little things I could go back on. Like when shit's really hitting the fan, I can go back and kind of remember like, okay, there's some intangible benefits out there. I guess it is tangible. Like you can really see that you're making a difference. And that's, I've been in this industry for so long. So that's awesome.
100%.
Man. Last question for you is like, if people are listening, or people in our community who listen to the show, like what do you need help with right now? If you want people to reach out and contact you, like what do you want to hear from people about?
What do I want to hear from people about? There's one lesson that I learned in life, not like in life, like one lesson, but one of the most important lessons I learned as a founder is, let me back up actually. I think I'm going all over the place. I think there's 3 keys to success. You got to like be pretty smart and make the right decisions. You'll be smart. You got to make the right decisions. You got to work really hard, and you have to be lucky. I really think those are like the 3 ingredients. Like if you got those 3, like you'll be successful. Which one's the most important one? In my opinion, is luck. But I believe luck is something that you make yourself. You have to put yourselves in places where you'll find the luck, essentially. So to give you an example, like when I started the business, there would be like networking events and like pitch competitions. And I think on a lot of days I was like, it's a Friday night, I want to drive 3 hours to go pitch at this competition. But it's like putting yourself in those positions and going out and doing things you don't want to do is where you find that luck. And that's really what's helped the business grow, is like the people that invested in this business or the people that help open doors. Like one of our investors is Mark Mastrov. Like I didn't know Mark Mastrov from 24 Hour Fitness, but I got connected to him through somebody, through an event, through something, right? And so the one thing I'd love to get out of this is every opportunity I have to meet someone interesting, another founder, some industry expert. And that's why I go to like as many trade shows as possible, because I honestly do like and enjoy talking to real people, because that's kind of how this business continues to grow, is through like meeting amazing humans. And then we help each other and we learn things and we progress. So if you, like, I don't want to get sold on anything. I don't want anybody calling me to try to sell me anything. But if you're a real founder or an executive and you want to learn about our industry and I can learn something from you, I love the opportunity.
Yeah, great mindset. Yeah, luck is a residue of design.
Yeah,
that's what I heard once, and it really stuck with me. Awesome. And where would you like people to go, Andy? Is there, socials, email, website?
Add me, well, LinkedIn, I don't accept everybody. You send me an email. It's really simple. It's Andy and then our company domain, avironactive.com. And
awesome.
Yeah, I always try to respond to emails. Unless you're trying to sell me something, I always reply. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, man, thank you so much for coming on. I'm glad we finally made this happen. Really insightful, really honest, really enjoyed it. And love to get you back on about a year and check in and see what's going on.
Likewise, Eric. That was really fun. I enjoyed this.
Right on. Ladies and gentlemen, Andy Hoang.
Thank you.